Andy, usually I have some like quippy thing to start off with today. It's Wednesday. I don't know if I have anything necessarily quippy to start with. How you doing today? You
I'm
doing
good. I'm good. You got a case of the midweek stave? Are you in that midweek funk? It's not the beginning of the week. It's not yet the weekend. You're just kind of pushing through. Is that where we are? Is it
Yeah,
National
it's not,
Dog Day didn't get you hyped up this week? Nothing's getting you really motivated. Is that where we are?
I mean, I we had the CD Lamb contract that came in,
Yeah,
Andy, and
huge.
yeah, a huge contract for him. I
Yeah.
mean, had to figure he was going to get paid. Now the question is, can we afford Dak and Micah Parsons? Jerry Jones had an interesting thing. He's like, like he was facing criticism for his GM work,
Yeah.
and he's like, who else would I bring in here? Nobody, like nobody else can do what I do here. And kind of like it's eerily sounding like Joe Biden, like only God can remove me from the ticket here.
I
So
mean, come on. The ego on a football team owner is massive, right? I mean, some of them are absolutely awful, and they still think they're the greatest thing that's ever happened. I mean, poor Washington had to endure Dan Snyder for way too long, so it's that's the way it is, man. When these old men buy football teams, they think they are a gift to all of us, and you know, Jerry, just go away. But hey, Dave, I know we're not here to dig into Jerry Jones's life. Where are you taking us on this beautiful August 28th, 2024?
Um, yeah, well, let's start with some politics, Andy, because I think let's get it out of the way. Okay,
Let's
let's
get
just
out of
get
the
it.
way. All
There's
right.
a lot of things we talked about RFK's endorsements. We saw talked about the DNC. Um, they're from all accounts seem to be a pretty positive pep rally, as you like to call them.
Yeah.
Now we're shifting to the debates, Andy, and we said, hey, look, there's debates coming up September 10th. Now I'm not so sure if we're going to have debates, Andy. There seems to be a lot of back and forth. I think trying to reclaim the narrative, Trump is pushing back a little bit. Like, why would I go to ABC and be on these nasty people debates?
Yeah.
But it's also on the other side, there's a discussion about the open mic, whether or not to keep the mic rolling or shut them off when the candidate's time is over. I've long been a fan of shut the mic off because
Yeah.
people just abuse that privilege, and Trump definitely does that. But it's a little the opposite way. The Harris campaign is like almost like, and I forgot to start the clock here, Andy, so we'll just go. But the Harris campaign is almost like poking the bear here.
Yeah.
And like I don't know the right word, but they've called Trump a coward. Effectively, they posted some videos of him ducking or like making comments about changing his mind on the debates. And then two, they've been like, no, let's keep the mic rolling. Well, we want Trump to say what he wants to say. And I think this is all playing into their narrative about Trump is unserious. He's not, he's a buffoon, and this let the guy sink his own ship here, Andy. So what are your thoughts when you're about this debate?
Well, also, I think the debate will happen. I think, for all of Trump's blustering, I think he knows he would be seen as a coward and not benefit at all for not going up in debate. So I think he will. I think what he's doing is he is good at setting sort of the conditions for his situations, right? He likes to sort of set things up. He did a great job, and his campaign did a great job, going into the Biden debate of really lowering expectations, really elevating Biden's expectations, right? Which ended up being catastrophic when Mr. Biden couldn't perform. I think in this case, complaining about how, it's being set up and it doesn't benefit him and all these little things, I think it makes the case that he loves to make that he's really being victimized, right? But he's going to overcome that adversity and he's going to come and do it anyway, right? And I think that's where we're going to end up, right? They'll come to terms, he'll debate anyway, but it'll be that, woe is me, look what I have to do and put up with. The deck is stacked against me, even though I've got, all of Twitter, supporting me, right? But the deck is against me. No one loves me. I think it's that victimhood piece. It'll come together, and I'll take the bet, Dave, that we will have a presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's definitely going to happen. I I just find these strategies very I don't know, very interesting to see. And I do think that this, like Trump is an unserious candidate. It is playing. It does seem to be, poking at him. I've never seen another party, or especially the Democrats, who have gone after. I mean, there was a video they promoted basically with Trump speaking, and there's like a chicken in the background,
Yeah,
effectively it's kind of funny, honestly. And I think they're trying to get Trump to lose break character, right?
yeah.
And come out and completely lose it. That way, further showing that he's unfit to serve and whatnot. So, Andy, where are you at with yeah, we talked a little bit about social media posts and such and the cancel culture here. Did you see about Patrick Mahomes' wife, who had, liked a post from on the MAGA side,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden everybody's coming after her. Now, look, the Patrick Mahomes has like high approval ratings. His family typically has had high approval ratings, but now all of a sudden you like a post and we're dumping you like a hot rock. Where do you stand on these type of things? I
Yeah.
think we're a little bit too far here on some of these.
I mean, I think, there is, when it comes to cancel culture, there is a real piece to cancel culture. I've talked before about, there's a great book by the CEO of the Fire Organization with one of his partners that put out a great book on the complexity of cancel culture. But that's really more for professionals, not famous people, right? So yes, professors and scientists and others have been effectively canceled, at least for some time, due to their beliefs and opinions. With famous people, it's like pause culture. Like there might be a temporary silence or blockage of a person, but they always come back. It's not really canceling them. I think what it really talks to is there the um, how intolerant we are, right? Because honestly, like who cares what Patrick Mahomes' wife, Brittany Mahomes' politics are? She's allowed to support whatever she wants. She's not saying anything horrible by saying I agree with this opinion from Donald Trump, or I agree with this opinion from Kamala Harris. Like people shouldn't condemn or publicly shame somebody because they like a post or share a post or have an opinion that we disagree with, right? I mean, that's okay. Now, when people support things that are calls for violence or calls for hate, that's one thing. But just because you maybe don't like Donald Trump and maybe you see him as a threat or whatever, people want to throw on him, somebody that supports him isn't the same thing, right? Isn't the same thing as that individual. So, I think it's unfair. I think it's part of our very judgmental culture, which social media certainly exacerbates, right? It's so much easier to condemn and shame somebody for something they said, liked, posted, whatever on the socials. I don't think anybody really cares. I mean, I don't think anybody really cares about Brittany Mahomes' politics, right? Patrick Mahomes is throwing no look passes against the Lions. The guy's incredible. He's going to go to his third, consecutive Super Bowl this year. Like they're great, and Patrick's great, and nobody cares about Brittany Mahomes' politics. But it's just sad to see. Like and support whoever you want. You shouldn't be shamed for it. Let's have disagreements. Let's debate those things with respect. Like that. That's how it's supposed to work. The candidate you disagree with is not the enemy of the world, right? Now Trump is a little bit exceptional, but those support him aren't necessarily the same thing as the individual himself, and it's not fair to cast people in that light. And so, if you like Donald Trump, I still like you. I've broken bread and had beers with people that have, politics are different than mine. That's the way it's supposed to be in this country. And Dave, just one more point as I'm rambling. I love my neighborhood, Dave. I was walking my dogs the other day, and I see house with Democrat signs, house with Republican signs, house with Democrat signs. Nobody's burning down anybody else's house. We're allowed to express our politics here. Support who you want, like who you want, love who you want, hate who you want. It doesn't change your neighbor from being your neighbor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we should love our neighbors, right, Andy? But let's just to your point here, like she liked the post of the GOP platform. It just happened to be posted by Trump on his Truth Social. But here's some of the comment, Andy. Like just one. I don't get how people with kids still vote for a known child rapist felon. Guess people like Brittany Mahomes prefer tax breaks over child safety. I don't think she said that
Yeah,
by liking the post.
yeah,
She definitely didn't say I don't like child safety. And I think this is just where we're a little bit like fucking take a break, people.
yeah.
I mean,
That's right.
take a
That's
break.
right.
So, All right, Andy, that's enough we need to spend on politics. We'll see how this evolves over the next week and a half as we head towards what we hope is a debate where we can get some, that middle 20% can decide how they're going to vote if they haven't decided already. Okay, Andy, let's talk about mosquitoes and health issues.
Yeah,
Did you see the story? Of course, you saw it because you sent it to me. I love saying that line. But, about Dr. Fauci, Andy,
yeah.
coming down with, I mean, the pretty um, rare disease here. There's a lot of like just some nasty stuff out there that can always come down. Well, first of all, where did you stand with Fauci, Andy?
That's a right turn of that topic. They went from that's a whole long discussion that I'm happy to have. That probably goes beyond where you wanted for this segment, but I'll tell you, I have a whole belief of what I call, Dave, the defenders, right? People that are charged with keeping others safe, and it applies to law enforcement, it applies to the military, it applies to public health officials and emergency responders and managers, and for all the criticism of Dr. Fauci, I think his charge was to protect people and keep us safe, right? And I think individuals with those charge and responsibilities tend to take them to the extreme, not for hate, malice, or conspiracy, but because they're trying to do their job and protect them, other Americans. And I understand and appreciate that. I think we as citizens have a responsibility to push back when that mission, when that commitment goes too far and maybe starts to violate others' rights and freedoms. And I think it's okay to push back on those things. I think Dr. Fauci tried to do his best to take care of America during the pandemic. I think he may have been wrong in a number of choices and things that he said and did. I don't think that's something to condemn him for. I think we have to be able to say, hey, he was trying to take care of us, right? The same thing applies when sometimes law enforcement, such as I disagree with the FBI, for example, on their desperate desire to break encryption. Their job is to keep America safe from an act of terrorism, violence, and harms to our country and the Constitution of the United States of America. That is their mission. They see things one way. We as citizens have a right to push back and say, hey, I get it. We're going to accept some risk here. And no, you can't break encryption. So I think there's a balancing act, and we can get into that more. I don't think that's where you wanted me to go this morning in length, but I have no problem with Dr. Fauci. I don't agree with everything that he said and did.
Well, yeah, it definitely took a right turn there, but he did come down with the West Nile virus, Andy.
Yeah,
This is a nasty little thing. Mosquitoes transmit this more often than not,
yeah.
but it kind of brings up like these weird diseases. And he's an older individual. He's the age of almost Joe Biden, and then Donald Trump. So you get a bug bite like this, and you could be down for the count for a while. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of conspiracies around this. But he came down with West Nile virus. A lot of stuff that comes. It kind of also reminds me of like the Lyme disease. These look like from ticks and such.
Yeah.
You can get quite fucked up from like a little bug bite here, Andy. It just speaks to the power of the insect, Andy. Maybe they should be ruling the world, I guess.
So yeah, let me talk on that for a minute, right? So I don't know if you saw earlier this week, there have been comments about this town in Massachusetts that's getting crushed with this like deadly mosquito virus, right? So they're people are on lockdown trying to avoid it. They've had problems with this mosquito virus emerge in other parts of around the country. I'll see if I can find the name of it again here, but the mosquito-borne virus, Eastern equine, I'm going to say this completely wrong, encephalitis, right? And so I'll show the link when we post this, but it's got a pretty high kill ratio with Americans. So there's that news, right, circulating. And then Dr. Fauci reportedly having West Nile virus. So I'll tell you, Dave, you remember as young captains, we would attend Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, for Army training as part of becoming a captain. I was out there and unofficially diagnosed, but over one weekend, my head started to hurt, and what would rapidly escalate into the feeling, I kid you not, I felt like my brain was getting too big to fit inside my skull. And I turned off all the lights. I was slamming my head with pillows and pressure, and I was borderline, if not actually in tears. I can't remember. I might have actually like cry. I was in so much pain for the whole weekend, and I couldn't do anything. And I was in the middle of Kansas. My roommate was out. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there and endured. and it passed. But I honestly thought I was going to die. I thought my brain was going to explode inside my own head. It was miserable. It was miserable. And when I went back and looked at the other indicators, it lined up with West Nile virus. Never got officially diagnosed, but I'm confident that's what I had. That was back in Dave 2002. And so it was miserable. And with this, Massachusetts virus, I'll tell you, I've been a piece of candy for mosquitoes since I was a kid. They poke me right now on my arm. You probably can't see here on the video. I've got a
Oh, flex
massive
it, baby, flex it.
I've got a massive bump here from a mosquito bite. It was on me for a second. It bit me for a second, instant swelling. So I'll tell you this, Dave. I have survived numerous car crashes, more than I'll publicly admit, 3 combat zones and jumping out of airplanes. I've been T-boned by an SUV, 10 fractures, 4 ribs, got my shingles cancer combo punch, still ticking, still ticking. I will die from a mosquito. Like I'm telling you right now, like when I go, Dave, you can put just a mosquito on my tombstone. Some silly bastard mosquito is going to bite me with the wrong thing in his system, and he's going to take me out, and I'm going to die, and I'm going to hate that son of a bitch. But that's my destiny. But I think the point of this, and this is for Mama Jabor out there, put on your bug spray, use your candles, keep yourself safe because they're out there biting and there's no need to get bit. But I get bit constantly, Dave. It's the worst part of summer for me is feeling like I'm getting absolutely devoured by mosquitoes. So please protect yourselves. There's some really serious consequences out there for some types of mosquitoes and the things that they bring to us. And yeah, Dave, it's been good, but at some point I'm not going to show up for this podcast. Blame the mosquito.
Yeah, I mean, this is your public service announcement
It
on
is.
wearing your bug spray and such. And we don't want Andy to die, so Andy, please do that. I'm surprised you haven't had a case of the vampires or anything like that. What they want to suck your blood or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Good time. So that was a filler segment, Andy. That was good. We managed to spend 7 minutes talking about mosquito bites. So that's good. Okay, so let's go to this one here, Andy. This last one for today. You're familiar with the band Oasis, Andy? I mean, this is a
Yeah.
rock band from our youth. They had a great first album, a pretty decent second album. I think they're mo known more for like the feud between the brothers, Liam and Noel Gallagher. They had quite a feud over the years, and really the reason why they didn't do more is because they couldn't stand each other. And
Yeah.
so there's been a couple attempts to have some follow-up reunions over the years. But Andy, there's a huge announcement on X last week or earlier this week. Oasis is going to tour again in 2025, a couple shows in England. And this is getting a lot of people excited, Andy.
Yeah.
The question is, well, there's two things. One, like of all groups to get together, are we really excited about Oasis? But then two, like we should talk about who would you really want to see a reunion tour with, Andy? So let's start with that. Andy, where are we at with are you excited about Oasis getting back together?
No, not really. I mean, I really genuinely enjoyed Oasis when their first couple albums came out.
Yeah.
I think it was 94 and 95, if I recall right. So that's my high school and college transition years, and I loved it. Like they were great. I really enjoyed them. Thought it was a lot of fun. They were a train wreck. I mean, the entire time they were a train wreck. And I think they put out some music after that, but it was never to that same level. They broke up. It was just chaos. And I've gone back and listened to the albums, over the years a little bit, and like I can't really get as into them. They're kind of whiny, kind of slow. They're good, they're fun, but I feel like they're kind of good in the mid '90s. And I don't really know that's something I go back to and love to listen to, like I do a lot of my '90s, music. They're going to get look again, just like with Jerry Jones. Like, how big is your fucking ego? Like, you're a musician, you're famous, you're rich. Like, that's great, but like chill the fuck out. Like nobody cares that you're Oasis. You know what I mean? Dude, I love the Black Crows. They had an incident years ago where Chris Robinson was like in a 7-Eleven and went off on some poor 7-Eleven worker for not recognizing who he was. And like I had to like block the Black Crows for years. I was pissed at them for years because of that. I love them. Their new album's amazing, but I was so pissed with their arrogance. Same thing here. I mean, like just like nobody cares that you're Oasis. Like just put out some albums, make some music, have some fun, or go away. And so yeah, okay, they're having a reunion. Like great. I'm not buying tickets, Dave.
Yeah, I look. I think their one album was really good, especially some of the key anthem songs there. They had a lot of really good stuff, and when it comes on, like everyone knows the words to it. But again, not any reason for me to get super excited. I think they've overinflated how much people really give a fuck about it. But who knows? They had a pretty cool promotional video for it. Aside from that, Andy, let's go to the second question there. Who would you most want to see like do like 80s, 90s group? There's a lot of them who've had some tours or what group would you most like to see? And I want to caveat it, Andy, because I know some of these groups continue on like today, but like where would you want to go back in time to that group to where they really were? I'll start, Andy, and
All right.
I'll do one.
All right.
I think Smashing Pumpkins from the early 90s, that's where I'd like to go. Like they put out, three or four albums. All that's when people were putting out album after album. They were going strong. Smashing Pumpkins put out a couple really strong ones. I'd like to go back to that time. I know, look, don't at me and tell me, hey, Smashing Pumpkins is still playing. I don't give a fuck. Pearl Jam's still playing too. It's not the same from early 90s. I'm sorry, people, it's just not. And so that's what I'll start with that one. I'd like to see Smashing Pumpkins. What
Yeah.
band would you like to see?
Well, also on Smashing Pumpkins, I mean, when they came out, I mean, they were so good, right? They
Yeah.
were so good. I mean, Billy Corgan's voice, the band itself just came together. It was really good. So I agree. Like they just dropped a new album that I could barely listen to, and their
Yeah.
last album, which was like a double or triple album, there's like one good song. It was a very good song too, but the rest of the album was like it was terrible. So I agree. Like certain bands lived in a certain era and they were great then. Smashing Pumpkins, great choice. I really thought about this, David. I was like, there's a lot of bands in the '80s that I really enjoyed and loved. That would be fun to see, right? I mean, seeing the original Van Halen would be
Yeah.
super fun. Seeing Blondie would be super fun. But really, I'm a '90s kid in my heart. That's really my era of music that I still love so much. And so it's sort of in a similar time. I thought about like who would I like to see? Soundgarden's one, but I did get to see Chris Cornell before he passed away. Actually, my wife's first concert, I took her to a venue here. We had a great time. Saw Linkin Park and Chris Cornell before those two singers passed away. So it was great. So I have that at least. So I think the only band I completely miss and would have loved to have seen live would have been Nirvana. I mean,
Yeah.
and I still love Dave Grohl at many levels, and he's still out there rocking with the Foo Fighters, who are still amazing and putting out fantastic music. But Nirvana was just so unbelievable when they came out. I mean, I still remember I was at a sleepover in high school, and the video came on. Smells Like Teen Spirit video came on, and the three of us just sort of stopped and were watching it on MTV, and we were like, "What the hell is this?" And I was given the charge to then go to the mall and buy CDs for all three of us and give it to my friends so we could listen to it. I didn't do it at the time, but it was great. I mean, they were awesome, and I got to see. We were kids. There was a local venue that a lot of cover bands would go to, and a cover band of Nirvana came and performed, and it was awesome to see, just to hear that music live, even by kids in their 20s that were covering their tunes. I would have loved to see them live. So I think Nirvana definitely have to get my vote, and I would love to see that show.
Yeah, actually, Nirvana was on my short list too. And I saw recently somebody was trying to say Nirvana wouldn't have this much love if Kurt Cobain had not, committed suicide. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's a bad take. I
That's a
mean,
bad take.
like, go back and listen to Nirvana and just understand, well, one, how big of a shock it was that it happened, but two, like the reason why everybody was in like mourning, this was genuinely he was an amazing artist, and go back and listen to those albums, and you'll come away with a lot better. Now there's a lot of pain behind all of that, but the music was great. Two other bands that I was thinking of, Andy. One, it kind of bled 80s and 90s. Duran Duran is one
Oh
I
yeah.
would love.
Oh yeah.
I'd love to go back and listen to. Now I know they came out with something a couple years back But and they had a run, I think, in about 10 years ago or something, where they put out a good album that had a couple really good songs on it.
Yeah,
But like Duran Duran, it was like Duran Duran and U2. Like those like, they were very similar. U2 obviously had the longer career, but I would like the Duran Duran. REM was another one, Andy. That's a group that I don't think really I don't think if you talk to people about REM, I don't think many people will know who they are, and but they'll know a lot of the songs. But like the kids today probably don't listen to REM a whole lot. But they had a run too, like in the late 80s, early 90s. That was everything on MTV was REM. It seemed like every other
yeah.
week there was a new REM video or something come out. They really dominated on a lot of so those are the ones that came to mind. I had thought about Blondie too. Would be good. Stevie Nicks early, like, but they've been doing some reunion tours already. But
Yeah.
if those other ones have come out, it'd be really good. So that's my thought. Any lingering ones for you, Andy?
No, I think it's a good. I mean, Duran Duran. Whether you're talking, Rio in the '80s or Too Much
Yeah.
Information in the '90s, like just such a fun sound. There's so much sort of that European English
Yeah.
rock. I mean, whether you're talking, Pet Shop Boys, right, or others around that time that just sort of like such a fun sound. George Michael, obviously, and Wham, and many others. Like that was awesome stuff. And then, I mean, you're right. There's so much other like great music that came out from so many artists. I mean, so much, so much. So I think you named some good ones. I mean, there's so much I've left. I've gone back and been able to see and enjoy. Music, like a lot of things, you don't want to fully appreciate it in the time because you think it's just going to keep going. And bands go through ruts. I mean, Metallica went through a period of time where they were putting out garbage albums, albums break or bands break up. In the case of Nirvana, yeah, they were huge. They burst that grunge scene
Mhm.
onto us, and Kurt Cobain was the face of all of that more than anybody else. I mean, yes, Pearl Jam was there, others were there, but he was the face of all of it. His silliness, his goofiness, his look. Now we didn't appreciate how talented Dave Grohl was, at the time, and he's a phenomenal, talented musician. But I mean, Kurt Cobain was the face of grunge, and that was, I mean, the thing, right? Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, you name it. I mean, Nirvana was the king of that scene. Unfortunate, what happened. I think they still would have been highly successful if he'd lived.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That was a fun way to end up a Wednesday. We
Yeah,
had some politics discussion. We had some meaningless mosquito conversation, but almost your life,
Dave, I'm going to die from a mosquito. It's not meaningless. That's my life. You're
your
mocking
death
there.
story. I mean, there, and then we wrap up with some fun stuff there. So I'll pull it out. So, all right, everyone, you got your public service announcement. Wear your bug spray. You
Right.
got some nostalgia, and we look forward to another day here, Andy. So I'll catch up with you next time.